Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you, Jess?
Good. I should say just happy Thursday because people are joining from all over today. So good
All over the
morning.
world.
Yeah.
I see we've got
Thank
Dominique here. We've got Miriam here. Steve's here. So already getting a good crowd in.
I can see some good UK attendance and some Indian attendance too. So we really are a global audience today. That's good to see.
Which is great. So hopefully you all can see us. And I would love it if you guys would do a quick favor and open up your chat window. We're going to use the chat window quite a bit today. Dominique's here 3 times, which is interesting. So we're going to have 3 Dominiques. Can you handle 3 Dominiques?
We're going to talk about personas, Dominique. Are you making a point?
Yeah. Open your chat window, choose the drop down there and change it to all panelists and attendees. And just go ahead and say hi. I just did it. You should all see it in the chat window. Would be great if you would open that window and go ahead and do that, just so that we make sure that we see you. So I see Molly, which is great. I see Dominique, which is great. I see multiple Dominiques, which is great. I see Steve. I see Rachel. So we're gathering our crowd. This always in today's world, it always takes a few minutes. So we'll wait a few minutes. I'm not sure why we have 3 Dominiques. That'll be our mystery. Dominique, if you
Dominique's, we know
Dominique, if you can tell. I'm sorry. What did you say, Ivan?
You can never have enough Dominiques. I know who Dominique is. So I wish I did have 3 of them actually. So Dominique is bringing in some colleagues, I think, all using the same link.
Oh, got it.
Oh, Dominique, if you could just Dominique, if you could confirm what Ivan just said, that there's or for the other Dominiques, if you could go in and change your name, if you can, that would be great. Unfortunately, with Zoom, we've had some issues with Zoom bombing, where people have gotten the links and just joined the sessions. So I just want to make sure that all 3 of those Dominiques are real, so we don't end up with anything once we get started. We've actually had 3 or 4 situations where people with multiple names have come in, and it's caused some issues with some stuff that we don't want to have happen in the webinar. So I just want to make sure that that those are all legitimate, which I hope they are. So
you don't have enough but let's with Zoom so far. I think we're all pros now. You do that by dropping down in the corner of your tile where you're logged in, and select rename. You can change your name, your display name.
Okay.
Oh, we've got one of them.
So we're gonna trust that these are all we're gonna trust that these are all good, and go from there. So welcome everyone. Jess, I'll turn it over to you to get us started.
Yeah, thank you everybody for being here, and thanks to Jason, Jim, and Ivan for being our featured presenters. This is a really important topic. We're talking about workforce experience, specifically having a workforce experience layer to help you deliver that. And this has always been an important topic, but especially this year when everything changed and you have more pressure than ever before to put people first, to design work for people instead of asking them to bend to old systems and processes that needed to be innovated anyway. So there's a great solution for that. We're going to talk a lot about that. Before we get into the content, let's do proper introductions, because we really do have some of the most brilliant minds on the planet when it comes to this kind of solution to serve this need. We're lucky to have them all in one place at one time. 2 of us presenting from Leapgen, and then of course Ivan from Applaud. So let's do quick introductions. Jason, would you start and then toss it to Jim and down the line?
Sure. Hi, Jason Averbrook, CEO and co-founder of Leapgen. Really excited to be with you, joining you from sunny Minneapolis, Minnesota in the United States today. So great to be with you all, and hope everyone is having a great Thursday so far. Jim?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Hey, everybody. I'm Jim Holenchuk from Leapgen. Also very happy to be here talking about workforce experience and workforce experience platforms. And I'm here in Chicago today, probably a little bit colder than maybe some of their locales that are here today, but looking forward to a great conversation. Ivan?
Hi guys, my name's Ivan. I'm CEO, co-founder of Applaud. Great to be here talking alongside Jim and Jason. I'm based in the UK. That nice orange glow on my face is because it's really dark over here and it's raining hard outside, so we've got the lights on. But yeah, great. I've been listening to Jason and Jim for years, so it's lovely to talk alongside them. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Wonderful, thank you. And so the content that we have prepared for you today is intended to sort of, unpack what is a workforce experience layer? What are we actually talking about? And what does that look like? It is an actual solution in a platform, but how do you approach it? And how does that relate to your core HR? We're gonna get a little bit nerdy on this stuff, but really why workforce experience, and how do you do that? Where do you start? What are the things that you need to think about and tackle in order to go down this journey and properly deploy a solution like this with the end goal in mind, which is a better and improved experience for your workforce and making it easy for HR to deliver that and to be innovative. So that's the agenda, but we want you to be completely conversational with us. We're not just going to talk at you. We want to talk with you. We want your questions. We want your own experience. We want the challenges that you're experiencing in your organization. So use the chat and let us know if anybody wants to unmute and sort of come on and chat with us as well. We're wide open to that. We just need to make you co-host and do a couple things on the back end, but we can do that. We can facilitate that. So say that in the chat if you'd like to weigh in as we go. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we want to, well, we kind of covered this a little bit in the introductions, but it might help to set the stage for some of the things we're going to talk about to let you know what our particular area of influence and expertise is and what we bring to this conversation. So Jason, if you could talk a little bit about Leapgen's approach to workforce experience and HR transformation, that would be good grounding.
Totally. So, hey, really quick, I've got Steve, I've got Jim, I've got Rachel, I've got Donna, I've got Jim. I don't have enough interaction here. The band isn't going to continue until everyone goes ahead and says in the chat where they're joining from. Okay, we need to make this a little more energetic than we're off to a start here. So we've got Berkshire, we've got Eugene, Oregon, which is great, Hertfordshire, England, Hermosa Beach, California, Chicago in the house. Great. India's here, San Antonio's here, Macon, Georgia's here, Florence, Kentucky, Philly. Awesome. Thank you guys. So I already feel more energy. So when we think about this, Tampa, Lebanon, awesome. Scottsdale. So global audience. So when we think about what we're trying to do, we're trying to create experiences. Okay, this event, your next 51 minutes with us should be an experience. And if it's not an experience, we're doing something wrong. Okay, I'm trying to create an experience by making you feel like we're all together, even though we're not, even though we're apart. So at Leapgen, we focus on driving experience and we evangelize experience. We evangelize transformation. Transformation means a radical change. Ivan, we'd all be in one room together, maybe. If we weren't dealing with COVID situations. But guess what? If we were all in one room together, we wouldn't have a global audience like this together. So we've transformed the way we think about communication based on what's happening around us. When we think about the world of HR and HR transformation, we're making a radical change when it comes to rethinking experience and what experience means, not from a work from office standpoint, a WFO, but a WFH standpoint. And H doesn't mean home. H means here, a work from here standpoint. And that here could be anywhere. The second thing that's really important to understand as we jump into this is back in Y2K. Everyone remember Y2K? I think we've got enough age on the call here where we remember, not the people, not the attendees, but the videos that I see. Sorry, Jess, that was probably offensive. But remember Y2K. You know, in Y2K, we all said, hey, if we make it through it, what's next? And the what's next thing was Workforce 2020. Okay. And we said, hey, Workforce 2020, guess what? We're going to be distributed. Does anyone remember this? Say yes or no if you remember this Y2K thing. I was actually sitting in a room watching a mainframe system, waiting for it to blow up, not knowing what I was going to do if it ever did. But we all remember this thing. And the next thing we started talking about was Workforce 2020. And we said, it's going to be distributed. It's going to be remote. We're going to be using video more. You know, people are going to work from wherever. People are going to work weird hours. And guess what? That's what's happening. But we got there. We got there without kind of a 2020 hitting us. We got there because of COVID. COVID accelerated everything. So instead of talking about the future of work, we talk about the now of work. In every organization we work with, that now of work is a key theme. And we see solutions like Applaud as a huge part of the now of work. If you don't have a solution like Applaud, you're not ready for the now of work. You're not ready. And Ivan, I'm going to turn over to you to talk about what you've done to kind of mold your organization to help organizations be ready for that now of work.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. That's a great introduction. I'll try to follow that. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Applaud. We've been going for 10 years. I do remember Y2K just about. I think I was about 5 years old back then. But yeah, we started up Applaud really for user experience. That's where our background has been. And over the last 10 years, that's really evolved to be more delivering employee experiences like Jason's talked about. And we've seen a boom in the last 3 years. For lots of reasons, the distributed workforce, you know, mobile access, people wanting to get HR services out to people in the field, but really the explosion of cloud as well, the proliferation of many systems coming into big organizations and the complexity that brings to HR teams and the people that the cutting edge of using these things like managers and employees. So the workforce experience layer that we have today, so it's an experience platform. It's a layer that sits on top of enterprises' existing systems, workforce-facing systems, primarily HR systems, deep integration into those systems. And it's a one-stop shop for all HR services mashed up with everything a worker needs to know. So with your service requests, your self-service transactions, help, knowledge, digital assistance, enterprise search, all that sort of thing. So moving away from all these siloed systems into one single place. Sounds a bit like a portal. That's kind of an old language we don't use anymore. A portal and intranet that's very sort of static, like full of link farms, like a gateway or a library to lots of content. An experience layer platform pulls all that together, much more personalized experience. And that's one of the driving things that you'll see as Jason and Jim talk about the work they've been doing in Leapgen. I think there's been a change in how we view HR tech and how we make the experience better for end users to make it more human-centric, not process-centric, and to make those experiences much more personalized. So rather than all these static links all over the place, we're tailoring information to the people that need and want to consume it in a better way. So it's nice to talk about this. It's a kind of a new area of HR tech. I don't think this is something that maybe people are as aware of. Really geared towards not HR, not the HR practitioners, but the consumers of HR. You know, the workers, the managers, the gig workers, the contractors, and so on. Just simplifying that digital HR experience. That's a bit about
Applaud.
And
Ivan, this is not just HR tech. Like, to call this your grandfather's HR tech is a big misnomer. Like, this is work tech. This is people tech. This is human tech. This is bringing the human and the personalization into the work we do. So, you know, some of us, like, you know, have been around HR tech forever, and we're like, whoa, this is different. You know, HR tech, just taking the name, it's technology for HR people. This is not technology for HR people. This is technology that allows HR people to bring humanity into the work that it does, which is a huge, huge difference. I would love it in the chat, guys. Let me know if you have something like this. Do you have an experience tool like this, or do you have a link farm? Let me know if your portal, I haven't used the word portal, your impact point is a link farm or it's truly an experience layer. Just type it in the chat. Link farm, everyone knows what a link farm is, right? It's just a farm, it's just a page with a bunch of links on it. Click here to go to SuccessFactors, click here to go to Workday, click here to go to so-and-so. Or do you truly have an experience layer like this? Link farms don't work in today's world. We're going to talk about why. But if we've got link farms, that is not experience. That's a terrible experience. It's not how we work outside of work. So, Ivan, thanks for driving that forward. And Jim and Ivan, I'd love for you to geek out a second. And it's not geeking out truly, but talk about this diagram. Like, I love this diagram, and we could not go on to another slide as far as I'm concerned, but would love you guys to dive into this.
Jim, do you want to out-geek me, or do you want me to have a go first?
What's that?
Do you want to out-geek me, or shall I have a go first?
Why don't you have a go first, and I'll provide color commentary. How about that?
So I think this summarizes what's in an experience platform quite nicely. At the bottom, everyone's got HR payroll systems, they've got finance systems, and Jason's quite right. The workers don't think of I'm using an HR system; they just think of I'm using things to do my job. And over the last few years, we've had all these other things that have kind of come in to try to make interaction with that system of record easier. We've seen a big boom in AI and digital assistants. We've seen things like help desks and knowledge and content platforms. We've had DXPs, digital experience platforms, where customers can build their own stuff. And there's all these little tools that are floating around. And what an experience platform does is bring it all together. It gives that single pane of glass where you've got all those things that you need as an end user to complete quite difficult processes sometimes. Let's think of doing something like an international transfer or a promotion as a manager. Think of all the touch points that process has across different systems, the help you might need, the knowledge articles you might need to do, checklists of tasks, approval management. All those things don't sit in silos, but it's not just about interacting to those HR or non-HR systems underneath. It's about getting help when you need it. Can I get onto an agent? Can I raise a help desk request? Where can I find an article that's going to tell me what to do? Can I ask the community about other people who have done something like this? Can I rate this and feed back to the people who've set this up and say, yeah, that was great experience, or no, you've messed something up, I found it really difficult. Have that feedback loop going on. So that's really what a platform does on top of that system of record. It's not a replacement for your HR system or your self-service system. It sort of complements that and it brings everything together. You'll go, Jim.
I love that example, Ivan, of the international transfer, international assignment. I mean, there's so many different touch points there. Typically, in most global organizations, when somebody does make an international move, there's outsourcing services often involved. There's lots of questions that people have. There's lots of things that an employee needs to know in terms of what happens in terms of taxes and other types of things that. If you just think about a pure transaction in an HR system, it really just doesn't cover it. And, trying to meet people where they're at, I think, is another key component of this. And that's really where the channels part of this comes in. Depending on time of day, where you're at physically, you may have to have multiple different channels. Like, you're not going to have your help desk necessarily open 24/7. And, if you are in the hospital and, your significant other is, in labor, and you want to understand what, what the policies are in terms of, coverage or other types of things, being able to do that through your mobile phone and easily get access to the answers that you need. I mean, that's what a workforce experience platform is about. It really gives you a palette to help create the right types of experiences that really meets the workforce where they're at.
Yeah, there's an emerging requirement from some customers that I've seen this year that actually don't really want another interface, if you want to call it that. They don't want another set of screens. They want actually interaction to come through things like Slack or MS Teams. This is the big growth area that we've seen this year. That's sort of not another screen to go through. hey, can we get it HR or workforce services integrated to our productivity tools? These are the things we use every day. How about me booking some leave through Slack or finding a knowledge article through that and actually wiring up those sorts of channels into those back-end systems? Again, that's something the platform does. It's an interesting thing that we've seen sort of come along this year that sort of speaks to that second row there on the channels.
Yeah, talk about a boom area this year with Teams and Slack, and that is becoming kind of the virtual workplace that many organizations are building because of what's happened with the pandemic. So we see a lot of interest in that from our clients too. Jason, it looked like you were going to jump in for a question for something there.
That's because Amy's question was so spot on. So Amy, such a great question. This whole slide that I'm seeing is what we talk about when we say frictionless workforce experience. It's putting the right information in the right channel at the right time for the right person. That's a frictionless workforce experience. And this is what it takes. I mean, these are sort of the details. And how, so Amy's question is a great one. How do you explain that that's an investment that needs to be made, providing that kind of frictionless workforce experience? Why does that matter? And budget, like how much something costs shouldn't really matter if it pays for itself. Like there is no cost. There's only the value, the impact that it creates. That's the story to tell. So Jason, how would you answer Amy's question? How do you prioritize experience over budget? Is that even a correlation?
No, you don't experience. Your budget for 2021 should be about workforce experience. That's the mic drop, everyone. I'm not going to say any more. Like your budget for 2021 should be tied to workforce experience. Now, this is a repositioning for some of us that have been in this space for a long time, Amy, and I don't know you, Amy. Amy, are you there? I took you off mute. Can you hear me? Oh, Amy, yes. All right.
Nice.
So, Amy, great to meet you. So when you think about this, the budget has always gone to core HR systems. It's gone to these transactional systems. And what they lack is the interaction to actually create experience. They lack the journeys to create experience. So I want to make sure I understand your question. When we think about budget, is that where your budget's going today, towards maintaining those systems? Or is it that we just have no budget?
It is a combination, right? So there's not a lot of budget. Our company is in a growth mode. It's a very small company growing. We're trying to maximize what we have in house and make the most of that experience. But when I really look at digital workforce, right? It's how do we make it broader than just HR, and convincing others to get into kind of the same mindset of HR can't do it alone, right? We need the other corporate functions to understand how important this is, from communications to finance to IT, to coming together to really drive the budget across all of the different functions to make this happen. Is where I struggle, right? How can I get them on board instead of just looking really siloed, to take the little budget that we all may have to make it into that kind of larger useful dollar to really drive this workforce experience and not just have it be HR.
Yep. No, completely agree. So when you think about the budget, the question is, I've got all of these other tools. And Amy, it doesn't make a difference the size of your organization. It's all just a scale question. I've got all of these other tools. How do I make sure that these tools are going to get used? How do I make sure that these tools are truly going to focus on leveraging these tools, leveraging the systems that are there? And the only way to do that is to bring us all together and own that concept of the experience. So as a budget, it shouldn't be a budget for experience and a budget for transactional tools. It should be a budget for our strategy, which is to how do we leverage and engage our workforce to help them do their best work, period. And whether it's HR, whether it's finance, whether it's IT, whatever it is, it all needs to go into that. Now, the challenge, excuse me, is in many cases, IT owns a budget for portals and the businesses own budgets for transactional systems. And what we need to do is to help IT understand and help the business understand collaboratively that the employees have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 hands, and 1 heart. They don't have they don't have hands, eyes, and ears and a heart for HR, and then a separate set for finance, a separate set for IT. It's 1 person. So therefore, we have to consolidate how we deliver and make it natural and frictionless. The technology, the great thing is the technology is there to do it. The orgs themselves, or we together have to structure ourselves in order to bring that to life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's
a mindset shift, like you said.
Yeah, it is. It is a mindset change, and everybody has their own priorities. So figuring out how to pull those priorities into the bigger picture and get agreement on that bigger picture, just ends up being the big, the opportunity.
It is, and Amy, it's amplifying their priorities.
Yeah.
Okay, because hey, we can go out and buy all the systems we want, but at the end of the day, if people can't find them, which is the #1 reason why people don't use systems, it's not going to do any good.
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, Amy, and Ryan had a really good comment about this in the chat too, is that, to some extent it starts with data, right? So, doing some voice of the customer type of research and understanding where you have impacts around experience today, and it could be experience beyond HR as well, is a good starting point to look for those opportunities that where improvement in workforce experience not only helps build your sort of internal brand with the employees and managers, but also looks for opportunities to streamline questions that you're getting from an HR, finance, or IT or whatever perspective by taking advantage of these platforms. And so there can be definitely a cost savings element to it, but understanding sort of current state of where you're at today in terms of providing experience to the workforce, and then seeing where the opportunities are for that improvement in a holistic way can be a good place to start.
I can give some feedback on some real life examples of customers that have gone and got budget. One famous one I remember with us, large customer. We were able to audit their usage of various systems, and there's one particular system that they had a very, well, let's say it was an 8-figure implementation and license fee, and they had 50% adoption. 50% of a 6-figure workforce had never ever logged into it. So straight away, not everyone can align to that sort of size of company, but straight away you've got a dollar figure where we spent this much money and half of our workers haven't even logged in. Not just they've logged in and don't like it or aren't getting value out of it, have never used it. And other examples of customers have used NPS ratings, so like Net Promoter Scores for their HR services. Not that that's got a dollar value against it, but it's a hard metric you can present to your leaders to say, look, we've invested in this, we've spent this much money, and this is what people think. And it can at least get the conversation going about this is something that you need to address within your organization.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. There are lots of ways to tell an ROI story, and we tend to default to cost savings as a return on investment story. But it's not just saving hard costs, it's what will our people be able to do that they can't do today, or that's difficult for them to do today? What's the value that they can provide? The additional value or the impact that's created. That there are lots of ways to tell an ROI story. And I think it's important, again, the mindset shift to say, what do we expect of our workforce? What do they need to deliver to the business? And how can we best activate them to do that? And that's where it becomes easier to tell the experience story, which does require a vision. Jason,
and guys, I was going to say, guys, going forward, I mean, Jim just said, and build confidence that the mindset shift and shifting priorities will pay off and be a safe bet.
Yeah.
The question is what does payoff mean? And that's where we have to clearly define our measures of success. Okay, what is that going to look like? What's the payoff? The payoff, is going to be a combination of efficiency, because people are going to be able to find the information they're looking for. They're going to be able to feel good about interacting with the company. Okay, and at the same time, the value they're going to get from it is they're going to be able to spend more time with their customers. It's a proven metric that employee experience equals customer, and employee satisfaction equals customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm driving that feeling, that F word, into what I'm doing, and being able to share that then with the customers, that output's going to be there. Now, that takes a macro level of thinking. It's not just a micro type thing. And Jim, the prioritization discussion that you said, shifting priorities, the priorities have to shift, but they also have to be sequenced, which we'll talk about as well, is what's the right sequence in which to do these things. So we always, and some of you that have been on events with us before, we always use this slide. And this is really the slide that talks about what drives success in any of these initiatives. And just say yes or no if you've seen this slide in the chat. It would be, and just make sure you're alive. But it's these four things: mindset and vision. It has to start with a mindset and vision. Second, we have to think about how the HR organization is structured and how our audience wants to work. Did y'all just hear that? How our audience wants to work, not how we want them to work, but how our audience wants to work. Third, thinking about how do our HR processes work today, and how do we want people to feel on a journey of getting something done. Okay, processes generate data, journeys generate feeling. Very, very important and big difference. Data versus feeling. And then lastly, then I can make the technology successful. But if I just start with the technology and throw it in without getting an understanding and an unlearning mindset in place, without truly understanding my people and how they will and want to work, thinking about which journeys matter now and prioritize those, then the technology has about a 10 to 15% chance of being successful, not going live. We get the go live part. That's 100%. But being successful in the eyes of the stakeholders. Okay, this concept of digital equation for success is key. Something that I highly recommend you do before you do any deployments is to help your HR organization and the leadership, whether it be HR or across HR, understand this discussion. Okay, Jim or Ivan, did you want to add anything to here? Because I mean, Jim, we've been watching this for as old as life, right? People go out and do an RFP, buy the technology, put it in, and be like, ugh, it's not working the way it worked in the demo, and the fact is the technology is working fine. It's that we didn't do the work ahead of time to dictate how we wanted to use the technology to drive our measures of success.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Ivan gave a great stat, right? 50% adoption for this huge investment in a new core HR system. And you kind of see that thing happen, maybe not to entirely that degree, but to some extent to that degree with a lot of organizations that we work with. They thought we're going to buy this big shiny new toy of a core HR that had a better user interface and would be easier for employees and managers to use, but they still don't have the level of adoption or engagement with those new capabilities that they necessarily thought they had. And because they didn't really address some of the fundamental underlying issues to get people to adopt, because they didn't really empathize with what the workforce was going through as they were deploying that new technology. And so I think that's really the big, if I could say, mindset shift here that we've seen over the last few years, is that people are waking up to that, right? They're seeing that if we really are going to be successful in delivering capabilities to our workforce in a way that they as an audience are going to want to consume, we have to think differently about it.
think we've seen that over the last 10 years or so, HR have been buying for themselves. They've been buying systems that are aligned to their processes and meet the requirements in their RFP, the thing we all hate looking at, and taking their eye off actually what they're delivering to the workers. And now that's changed. I mean, I love some of the work you guys are doing around this human-centric design. I hope you talk more about that, because we've started to see the results of that coming through from customers that have really embraced that, thinking about the human first. What's their experience going to be when you land all these systems in place? You know, you have the talent leader buying performance, you have the learning leader buying a learning system, you have comp and ben buying payroll and benefits, and suddenly you've got this smorgasbord of stuff that your poor manager has to consume and work with. And if you start thinking about the person who's that's going to be doing all these processes, you take a different approach. Doesn't mean you need to change all those things that you bought already, but just what can you put in front to make that simple, the job they have to do, the process they have to work with, more simple. It's a really nice way of approaching it.
Yeah, and I'd really like people to understand that our goal here isn't just adoption. You know, our goal here is to move towards addiction. The shift from adoption to addiction. Like, I get so much value from these tools, just like Siri. Like, I'm addicted to Siri, or I'm addicted to Alexa, right? Like, I get so much value that of course I'm going to use it. Okay, someone else said value equals workforce tech that the workforce doesn't have to use, they want to use. I love that. It should be, this is a great word, natural. It should be natural. Someone said we need to replicate the dopamine hits people get from their social media notifications. I love that.
Love that.
Like, sharing an office with Jess, I get to watch her dopamine hits daily.
Right.
Yeah, it is addicting. You know, Steve just said, I like this slide, a brilliant solution to the wrong problem can be worse than no solution at all. Solve the correct problem. It's a great comment, Steve. But, you know, this is the thing. The reason that Jess said this is tattooed on her, which it's not, I don't believe, but is that, you know, this is if you keep this front and center, what it allows you to do is it allows you to not get caught up in the technology trap. Because we get so caught up with the like, oh, Ivan and Duncan, that looks so great. Oh, it's the best thing I've ever seen. And hey, just put it in and we'll be successful. And it's much more than that, you guys. If we don't adapt, which means unlearning, people won't adopt. If we don't adapt, people won't adopt. And it's a key component to what makes this up going forward. And why is this the right time? It's such a magic time because we've never had this opportunity to hit the reset button like we do now. Like, look where all of us are. We're all in a little box, right? Work has changed forever. How we're working, where we're working, when we work, our workers have changed forever. What matters to them, why it matters. Like, the way I work with Jess and Jim and Ivan's completely different now than earlier this year. And business has changed forever. What we do, why we do it, how we do it, it's all changed. So all that being said, it's our time to do something. And what that means is that we're rethinking a lot of things. And we work with organizations every day around the world that'll say, hey, we already invested in our core HR, or some people like to call it an HCM. You know, and they're like, hey, we're just going to do it there. And I'd love to see on this poll that I just threw up in front of your face, just like that, like, is your core system meeting your needs from an experience standpoint? Okay. It can meet your needs all day long from getting payroll done. And it should. It can meet your needs all day long in counting people, which it should. But is it meeting your needs in making people count? There's a big difference between counting people and making people count and making people feel like they're part of your experience. So, you know, Jim and Ivan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think this poll is going to come in. I have a feeling I know where it's going to come in because I do this every day, and you guys do it every day too. But what would you guess?
Seeing the preview here, looks like number 2 is getting its nose in front. I'd be worried if everyone says C, because I think they might be on the wrong webinar.
Right.
Okay, so for everyone that hasn't voted yet, there's my knock on the window. Vote. There's not enough voting. We're still waiting for a few people to vote. You know, put your thoughts in there. Some people get caught up in multitasking, which I totally get on these events. But you know, go ahead and put your vote in there. It would be great. Jim Hollandcheck, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if it reflects what we hear from most of our clients, they're not getting all that they need from the core HR system in terms of meeting their experience needs.
Yeah, and you guys, I just want you to know, I mean, so 70% basically said they're not satisfied, 20% said they had no core HR system, 10% said they were satisfied. So that's 90% that are not satisfied. Okay, now does that mean your core HR system is bad? No. Please don't think that. That's the first big mistake that people say is like, oh, we must have bought the wrong thing. No, you didn't. The market's shifted. The weather's changed. We now need a jacket to keep us warm. You know, when we bought the system, we bought it thinking it was going to be just for us in HR and payroll and Ben. But now that we've exposed it to others, you know, we might need some additional capability. And that's where we start to get into this concept of experience and realizing that back office systems don't deliver front end experiences. You know, Jim and I, you know, when we worked at, well, Jim, I was at PeopleSoft and Jim was at Gartner. And I'll never forget Jim coming. It's like one of the worst days of my life. I was so nervous. I went through like 5 sticks of deodorant. But Jim came in as the Gartner god, you know, saying, show me your self-service. And, you know, I'd show him our self-service at PeopleSoft and he'd be like, oh, it's a good looking screen. Take some notes. Like, oh, I like the workflow. Take some notes. Ooh, can you add a field? Take some notes. Yeah, all that was cool. But at the end of the day, all we were doing was taking our back office tools and exposing them to employees who had no idea what an effective date was, no idea what a position was, no idea what our HR speak was. So we have to stop saying that we can just expect these back office tools to all of a sudden create this front office experience. And Jim, like we all learn over time. Like you and I thought that was holy grail back in the day. That, you know, oh wow, PeopleSoft got self-service, and hey, you can dial in via a modem with your AOL CD-ROM that you just happen to pick out of a magazine, and you know, connect to PeopleSoft. You know, the world's changed a lot since then.
Yeah, I mean, and at the time, it was much better than what it came before it, right? And I think that's really also, you know, something that I've learned over the years is that, you know, we can sort of like look back and laugh a little bit, like, how did we think that was really cool or good? But you know, your frame of reference shifts over time. And you know, today when we look at things like the consumer internet and the kinds of experiences that are being created there, you know, sort of the art of what's possible now is a lot higher, especially the expectations for what's possible are higher now. And you know, it's been harder, I think, for you know, enterprise technologies to keep up with that, which is why this whole area is so exciting, is because it's really, you know, allowing you to lift, you know, raise your bar in terms of the types of experiences that you can deliver to the workforce, you know, to make it much more consumer-like.
We've been having conversations for years with customers about this, and we often hear something like, we've got core HR and payroll and finance. We're not going to do anything with payroll because it's okay, but we'll move core HR up. And that's always a kind of a worrying sign when customers say that, because that indicates that actually their administration of system record is actually in a good shape. And what customers have done, which I think is a mistake recently, is kind of equate core HR to, call it employee manager self-service, using old terms. And you know, those days are gone. Core HR isn't your be all and end all of the services from HR that people consume. You've got, you know, all the talent systems and everything else that's coming along. And if you replace just your core, if you're talking about on-premise customers that are thinking they got something old, you know, one, there's tools that you can layer on top now to make that experience better. But two, just put in your core HR, bringing it up to you know, SuccessFactors or Workday, whatever you choose, you still got that little silo. And when you do these complex processes like transfers, like onboarding, like becoming a manager, like offboarding somebody, they have these touch points outside of core HR. So you're just doing one little bit. And the biggest growth area for us is actually customers that have gone cloud, have got the latest core HR systems, but they've just got too many systems, and the complexity is now overwhelming their users. And that's what they're trying to simplify now, not the core HR experience, their overall experience.
And one of the things I'd like to also talk about here is that it's really important in today's world that we separate the words deployment from implementation. Okay, when I deploy, I'm deploying a digital strategy around experience. Part of that deployment is the implementation of technology. I hope that makes sense. The implementation of technology, like, hey, guess what? I've got this great self-service module. No employees care about your self-service modules. First of all, it shouldn't be called modules. Second of all, they shouldn't be called self-service. Okay, we should say I'm giving employees and managers direct access to the information and tools they need to make them successful. Like, period. Stop using self-service. The second thing, these technologies are just designed for us, like Play-Doh, to create the experiences that our workforce wants and needs. Now, does that make sense? Just I need affirmation in the chat. When I keep looking up, I'm not looking up at God. I'm looking up into my other screen to see if you guys are still there. And Stephen, I love what you just said. There are a few times in your life you ever use language such as modules and never effective dates. Yeah, I mean, Stephen, if you're like me, I've never really had a good effective date. That's like a kiss at the end of the first date. Do you get that joke, Steve? Yeah. Effective date. I've never had an effective date. Just once, good. But when you think about those things, we're using 4 children later. When we think about those things, it's language. Some people didn't even get my dumb joke, I'm sure. Thank you, Steve, for playing along. But when we think about those things, it's all about how do we create that experience. And one of the things that's so fascinating about that is what we have to do is we have to think about not having HR operations be one group and HR tech being another group. Okay, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a single experience. And whether that experience is going to be high touch digital or high touch human is up to us as far as how we design it. Okay, so I may go in through an Applaud solution, but then still need to talk to a human, which, by the way, cool. But at least I know where I'm starting to end up in a place that gets me the answer that I'm trying to get to. No employees want to search. They just want answers. They just want to get something done. And that's what's really key about all of this. But we have to organize ourselves in HR to do this right. We can't have every one of our COEs owning experience. Monica just put in the chat, in an era that demands agility, prioritizing experience gives an overall performance advantage, totally different from focused on differentiated capabilities. Completely agree. We take those differentiated capabilities and combine them together, and the 1 + 1 + 1 equals 10, not the 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. So we need that new model, that new operating model. And now, like I said earlier, now is our time. We've reached this point where we're able to accelerate. And guess what? Did you hear what I said? We're able to accelerate. We're not just able to accelerate, we already accelerated. Does that make sense? Like, we're not just able to accelerate, we already accelerated. The question is, what does it look like? Did we just connect a bunch of people together? Or did we truly build connection with people? There's a huge difference between getting people connected, which used to be our goal, and now building connections with people. And when we think about experience, that's one of the keys that experience focuses on. Ivan and Jim, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because this accelerant, I mean, this isn't just fake, you guys. This isn't like we're just making this up, as a way to say, oh yeah, you need to focus on experience. Like, we've been forced, which by the way, we should have done a long time ago, but we've been forced into a new model of work life. Jim?
Yeah, I think, you know, the way I've seen it play out with a couple of recent clients is that, you know, it was kind of like we knew we needed to make some of these changes, but, you know, this has really been, you know, the time that has, you know, sort of forced it to happen. You know, we've changed how, you know, our workforces needing to operate. They have new emerging needs that maybe they didn't have before. And, you know, we're, you know, deploying, you know, we're putting out technology solutions to try and address many of those needs. You know, we talked about Teams and Slack and things like that earlier, but, you know, there's still this whole sort of underlying issue of complexity and, you know, when you have that complexity and you're focused on just getting the connecting done, you can lose track of the connection. And I think that's really, as people have, you know, sort of taken a little bit of a breath from, you know, what's happened over the last few months, they're realizing that, you know, there's this great opportunity to build better connection with the workforce, and that, you know, if they do this right in terms of how they deploy, that they'll actually get there. And I think that's really, you know, it's a really actually great thing that's evolving out of all of this. But you know, it's it's unfortunate that it took this to get there, but I do think there is a positive aspect to it.
Ivan, do you want to add anything else to that?
I think there's been a dramatic shift where everyone's kind of working on their own in their little, you know, the laptop at home, and you miss those water cooler moments, or the you know, the help you can get from your colleagues over a partition, and sort of puts more pressure on simplifying everything to make work go smoothly. I remember being a manager at Oracle, like yourself, Jason. I think I had 10 sticks of deodorant if Jim was going to come, rather than you guys in PeopleSoft. But I remember we had to use the own software that we'd built, the own HR software, to do things like a promotion or something like that. So, you know, bear this in mind, that I was sitting there as a manager using the software that my team had built, still not knowing what to do, because HR had proliferated all of this language on the screen and things like the grade codes and stuff. I just had no idea what to do. My team had built the stuff. What did I do? I talked to the person across the room for me, you know, the manager sitting next to me. How do you do this? And we've kind of lost that with working at home, you know, that sort of conversation support from your peers, and this is going to accelerate, you know, that real quick support, like you said, Jason. People just want to know how to do things straight away. Don't want to have to search.
Right. So here's our workforce right here. There they are, sitting on their couch, no shoes on. Want to get something done. You know, what do I do? The question is, and I'm going to open up this poll really quickly, have you invested in your experience layer? Yes, you already have. It's approved in your 2021 plans, or it's on your wish list. Go ahead and put in your vote there, because I'm just curious. If people don't do this in 2021, it's going to be, I'm almost going to say too late. It's going to be really hard, because you're going to fall further and further and further and further behind. So if there's ways that, you know, happy to have discussions at any time, any of us, to talk about how you can get this on your case, business case, value case, to be able to do this, because it's a huge component of what's going to drive any of our success going forward. You know, if we don't have an experience layer, our core systems are no longer going to work. That's the point that we're at. We're almost saying that if we don't have an experience layer, it's almost like saying our back office systems are running out of support. Because the fact of the matter is, people aren't going to use them the way that they've used them in the past. So what that means is it really gets us thinking about designing for people in a different way, and focuses on designing journeys. So, you know, here's someone, as Ivan walked through, going through an international assignment. And notice there's a pre-assignment, there's a beginning assignment, there's a finish assignment, and there's a return home. But look what I'm doing. I'm designing the whole journey. Notice This might cross 18 modules in yours of 18 systems in your world, right? Hey, one place I'm going to focus on reload. One place I'm going to ask a question. One place I'm going to onboard. Another place I'm going to train. Does that make sense? But if I don't think about these things in a journey, it's huge. Amy just said something fascinating. My college-age kids tell me they don't want to work in the corporate environment because it sounds too hard. It's already impacting talent and getting talent. And it is. And it doesn't need to be hard. It's freaking, excuse me, it's fun. It really is.
Or should be.
As long as you actually treat it as that and you create these kinds of experiences. Duncan, Ivan, I know that we wanted to talk about journeys a bit. I know we're almost out of time, but is there anything you want to add on this slide? Because I think it's really, really important.
I love this stuff you've done. You know, there's a bit in the playbook that you've put together.
Yep.
On this, and I think anyone that's interested, I'd encourage them to look at it. But I think one of the challenges that probably people sitting looking at this thinking, well, this sounds good, but how do I get started? Is you start here. You don't necessarily go to the vendor straight away, although I'm sure my sales leads would want them to. But actually, you know, take a process that's complicated like this, or like onboarding, or like a promotion, or something like that, and break it down into where all the touch points, where the complexities, where the pain points, where the inefficiencies, and start sort of understanding, you know, what that journey looks like. And then the persona mapping that you guys do as well is really interesting. Not just, I think we've gone past employee, manager, HR, admin as personas into what are the roles within your organization that are key, you know, retail staff in shops versus back office, or in a project-based organization, people in the field versus the administrators, that sort of thing. Because often the journeys are very different depending on the type of worker you are in that organization. And I think that's a great way to get started. Just take a sort of one process, think about your personas, start mapping it out like that, and you can actually start to build a picture of how you can improve your digital experiences.
Yeah, and I don't know who in the heck this Dominique is, whether there's one of her or three of her, but I definitely love her. And if there's three of them, that's even better, probably, because then there's three people I love. But the concept of roles are not personas is key. Personas are about models of work. And that's really, really important to understand. It's not the role, it's not what you do, it's how you do it and the situation that you're in as you're doing it. And it's a key component to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So, hey, Jess. Oh, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah. You know what I love about this, though, is there's no modules on here. There's no technology that we're talking about here. And I think sometimes people start from the other way around. It's like, okay, international assignment, you know, what systems am I using? And that really doesn't put, you know, the worker at the center. And you know, the great thing about doing a journey map like this is you really start from the premise of that persona and really understand what they actually need to do, not just in the systems, but beyond. And as Ivan said, you know, where the opportunities are to really improve and be able to iterate on that over time. And so if you haven't done journey mapping or you haven't developed, you know, really personas for your organization, that's at the heart of human-centered design. That really is going to be a key thing to do to get the most out of your workforce experience platform.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Jim, for adding that. As part of the slides that you'll get, which Jess, I'll let you wrap it up here in a second, you're going to understand. And one of the keys is thinking about how do I build a digital vision, a digital story. Most organizations don't have a digital HR vision and story or digital HR strategy. They have a technology action plan. And what's really key is to understand how do I create that digital vision and what the value of that is. Once again, in 2021, if you don't do anything else, get this documented. Get this documented because it's really your roadmap going forward. So Jess, I will turn it back over to you to wrap us up and make sure we get to a, you know, good closing where people can get all of the materials that we've talked about here.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind going to the second to last slide as we close, Jason, there's a QR code. You can get the playbook we referenced a couple of times on how you do all of this, how you drive this kind of value with the workforce experience layer. So just point your camera at the QR code. You can download the playbook. You will get the slides that we shared today, and there are tons of valuable resources, the examples of a digital vision map, examples of persona development and journey mapping. And that's the kind of work that we do here at Leapgen. So reach out to us, hello@Leapgen.com, if we can help you with digital HR vision or any components of that, including making a business case for this. And of course, you know, Ivan and his team at Applaud are available to answer questions and provide support and tons of resources like the playbook and lots of other things. So you'll get the deck and the recording. I'll give you a link to the playbook in the follow-up as well. So all of this is going to be delivered to your inbox. And as Jason said, you've got to have this digital story, call it your digital mandate heading into 2021 for your workforce, or you've kind of, you know, wasted the biggest opportunity you have to do this and to tell this story when you've got this accelerant behind you and your workforce waiting for a better experience. So thank you so much to Ivan and the team at Applaud for partnering with us on this really, really important story. And Jason and Jim, thank you as always. And to the audience, of course, for being here with us today and for all the fantastic interaction and questions. Let us know how we can help you, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys very much. Take care.